Hey there. Pull up a chair. I'm Dr. Hope. I've been a heart surgeon for just about 50 years now. And at 86, I still see patients 3 mornings a week. I can't seem to quit, mostly because I keep meeting folks like you who deserve the straight truth. I've held more hands than I can count. Widows who suddenly couldn't remember the sound of their husband's laugh. Grown sons staring at a hospital bed, asking me why their dad's heart gave out at 68. And every single time, I have to look them in the eye and say the same quiet, painful thing. He thought he was eating safe food. Let me tell you about Margaret. She was 74, sharp as a tack. Still ran the book club at the senior center. Every night after dinner, she'd open a can of beef stew, said it reminded her of Sunday suppers when her kids were little. She'd heat it up, sprinkle a little pepper, and feel proud she was cooking light. 2 years in, she started waking up with swollen ankles and a foggy head. Her blood pressure shot past 100. By the time she walked into my office, her kidneys were already struggling. Margaret looked at me with tears in her eyes and whispered, "Doc, I was just trying to take care of myself." That moment sticks with me. Because Margaret isn't rare. She's every pantry in America. See, I've been offered big money, 6 figures. Sometimes more to stand in front of a camera and call those same cans heart healthy. I turned every deal down. My conscience wouldn't let me sleep. I've seen the scans, the blocked arteries, the silent damage that happens one spoonful at a time. But here's the part that keeps me going. At 86, there's another side to the shelf. Cans that don't just keep you alive, they help you thrive. Cans that steady your blood sugar, rebuild your bones, and give you the energy to dance at your granddaughter's wedding. That's why I'm here today. In the next 40 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 5 canned foods quietly hurting millions of us over 60, and the 5 you can reach for every single day to protect your heart, your memory, and your independence. Every number, every study, every tip comes straight from the research and from the patients I've treated. You'll find the links below so you can read them yourself. Before we start, do me a favor, drop a quick note in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. I read every one, and I answer as many as I can. It helps me know who I'm talking to. All right, let's open the pantry together and shine a light on the first lie we've all been sold. Let's start with the one that breaks my heart the most. Because it looks so innocent? You pick up a can of peaches or pears at the grocery store. The label shows bright, smiling fruit, and the little tag says a healthy snack. I'm talking about canned fruit packed in syrup. It feels like dessert in a can. But for anyone over 60, it's a blood sugar bomb in disguise. I want you to meet Evelyn. She's 72, lives in a little yellow house in Ohio, still tends her roses every morning. Evelyn came into my office with tears streaming down her cheeks. She clutched a crumpled grocery receipt and said, "Dr. Ope, I gave up cookies. Every night I opened a can of peaches and syrup instead. I thought I was being good to myself." She paused, wiped her eyes, and added, "Now my doctor says I'm pre-diabetic. I've gained 18 pounds, and I fall asleep on the couch at 7 o'clock. Evelyn's story is one I've heard dozens of times. And every time it lands like a punch in the gut, she wasn't sneaking candy bars or drinking soda. She was trying to do the right thing. She swapped the obvious sweets for what she believed was a healthier treat. But here's what those pretty cans don't tell you. A single cup of canned peaches in heavy syrup contains 30 grams of added sugar. That's 8 level teaspoons dumped straight into your bloodstream. Imagine scooping 8 spoons of sugar into your coffee. That's what you're swallowing in one innocent-looking serving. Over time, those spikes wear out the pancreas, inflame the arteries, and pile fat right around the middle. A major study in JAMA Internal Medicine followed thousands of adults and found that when more than 25% of daily calories come from added sugars, the risk of dying from heart disease doubles. And after age 65, our bodies become 3 times more insulin resistant than they were at 40. Every spoonful of syrup is like pouring gasoline on a fire that's already smoldering. I sat Evelyn down, held her hand, and explained it gently. Fruit, in its natural form, is medicine fiber, vitamins, antioxidants. But the moment you drown it in syrup, you strip away the fiber and turn it into liquid candy. Her eyes widened. She whispered, I had no idea. Now, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to set you free. You don't have to give up the convenience of canned fruit. You just have to read the label like your life depends on it, because in a way, it does. Walk right past anything that says heavy syrup or light syrup. Those words are code for trouble. Instead, look for packed in water or packed in 100% fruit juice. Even better, keep a bowl of fresh berries, apples, or oranges on the counter. The fiber in whole fruit slows the sugar rush and keeps your energy steady all afternoon. Evelyn made the switch the very next week. She started buying cans labeled in water, and on Sundays, she'd slice a couple of apples to keep in the fridge. 3 months later, she came back for her follow-up. Her blood sugar had dropped 20 points. She'd lost 12 of the 18 pounds. And she was back to pruning her roses without needing a nap afterward. She hugged me and said, Doctor, Hope, I feel like I got my afternoons back. See, small changes create big ripples. One label, one choice at the store, one evening snack. That's all it takes to turn the tide. But sugar isn't the only silent killer hiding in your pantry. The next one is salty, comforting, and sitting on millions of shelves right now. Let's talk about canned soup, and why that warm bowl might be colder for your heart than you ever imagined. Let's move to the next shelf in your pantry, the one that probably feels the coziest. I'm talking about canned soup. You know, the kind the label says heart healthy, low fat, maybe even made with real vegetables. You pop the top, heat it up, and in 5 minutes you've got a steaming bowl that smells like grandma's kitchen. But for anyone over 60, that bowl can deliver half your daily salt before you've even picked up the spoon. Harold walked into my office, carrying a grocery bag like it was evidence in a trial. He was 68, still mowed his own lawn every Saturday, and proud of it. He set a can of chicken noodle soup on my desk and said, Doctor, Hope, this is my lunch 4 days a week. It says low fat right on the front. Then he rolled up his pant leg and showed me ankles so swollen his socks had left deep red rings. I checked his chart. Blood pressure 168/98. Harold looked puzzled. I thought soup was safe. He told me, it's mostly water. I wish I could say Harold was an exception, but I see his story play out every week. That single can he loved so much held between 900 and 1200 milligrams of sodium. The American Heart Association says we should aim for no more than 1500 milligrams a day after 60, and that's on the generous side. One bowl of soup, and Harold was already halfway to the ceiling. Sometimes more. A landmark trial in the journal Hypertension followed older adults who simply cut their sodium. On average, their systolic pressure dropped 7 points. 7 points doesn't sound like much until you realize it translates to a 25% lower chance of stroke. And here's something else. The label never mentions. Many canned soups contain MSG or similar flavor enhancers. In about 1 out of every 3 seniors I treat, those additives trigger headaches, brain fog, even a racing heartbeat that keeps them up at night. I sat across from Harold and asked him to picture his arteries like garden hoses. Salt. Is the pressure cranking the faucet too high? Over time, the hose stiffens. The joints swell. And the heart has to pump harder just to keep the water moving. Harold nodded slowly. So, my cozy lunch is strangling me, he asked. I told him the truth. Comfort food should heal, not hurt. The fix doesn't mean giving up soup altogether. It means taking back control. Start with one big pot on Sunday afternoon. Toss in chicken bones or a rotisserie carcass, carrots, celery, onion, a bay leaf. Let it simmer while you watch the game. Ladle it into single-serve glass containers and freeze them. You'll have homemade soup ready in the time it takes to microwave the canned stuff. And you decide how much salt goes in. Usually none at all. If you're not up for cooking every week, look for cans that say low sodium with less than 140 milligrams per serving. And here's a trick. Pour any canned beans or veggies you add through a strainer under running water. You'll rinse away 40% of the sodium before it ever hits the bowl. Then wake the flavor with garlic, rosemary, to a squeeze of lemon, things that make your taste buds dance without taxing your heart. Harold took the challenge. 3 months later, he brought me a Tupperware of his own chicken vegetable soup to taste. His ankles were back to normal. His pressure sat at 132/80, and he joked that his lawnmower was getting jealous because he had so much energy left over. He told me, "Doc, I still have soup every day. It just doesn't come from a can anymore." See, that's the beauty of these changes. They're gentle. They're doable. And they add up. One Sunday pot. One smart label. One rinse under the faucet. That's all it takes to turn a hidden danger into a healing ritual. But salt isn't the only thing hiding in cans. The next one wraps refined starch, sodium, and sugar into a single convenient package, and it's sitting in pantries across the country right now. Let's talk about canned pasta, and why that quick dinner might be quietly stealing your energy and your tomorrows. Let's keep walking down that grocery aisle together, past the soups, and land on something that feels like a hug from childhood. Canned pasta, ravioli, in thick red sauce, spaghetti ring swimming in tomato, maybe a little can of macaroni and cheese that just needs a quick stir on the stove. It's not dinner. My friend, it's a triple threat: sugar, salt, and refined starch, all rolled into one convenient package. Betty was 70, lived alone in a tidy apartment in Florida, and kept her routine like clockwork. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, she'd open a can of beef ravioli. My easy meal, she called it. She'd heat it up, grate a little cheese on top, and eat it in front of the evening news. Betty wasn't lazy, she was tired. Her husband had passed 2 years earlier, and cooking for one felt pointless. 3 nights a week. That can was her comfort. But comfort started to cost her. She came to me because she'd gained 22 pounds in a year, and her blood sugar had crept up to 142. She told me, "Doctor, Hope, I fall asleep at 8 o'clock and wake up feeling like I never slept." After dinner, she'd get a wave of energy, and then crash so hard she'd miss her favorite shows. Her knees ached, climbing the stairs to her bedroom. Betty looked at me with that quiet worry I know too well, and said, "I thought I was just getting old." I asked her to bring in the can next time. She did. 1 small can of ravioli, 1,200 milligrams of sodium, and 20 grams of added sugar. That's more salt than a large order of fries and as much sugar as a candy bar. The pasta itself, refined white flour, stripped of nearly 70% of the fiber you'd get from whole grain. A study in the journal Circulation followed people eating ultra-processed foods like this and found their risk of heart disease jumped 29%. The refined carbs spike your blood sugar fast, then drop it just as quick, leaving you foggy and hungry again in an hour. I explained it to Betty the way I'm explaining it to you now. Imagine your bloodstream as a calm river. That can of ravioli is like dumping in a bucket of sand, a shaker of salt, and a cup of sugar all at once. The river gets cloudy. The banks swell, and your heart has to work overtime to keep everything flowing. Betty's eyes filled up. "I thought I was saving time," she whispered. "Here's the good news. Convenience should never cost you your energy. You can still have pasta night, just not from a can. Pick up a box of whole grain spaghetti or penne cooks in 10 minutes. Same as heating the canned stuff. While the water boils, open a can of no salt, added diced tomatoes. Toss them in a pan with a clove of garlic and a handful of fresh basil. 5 minutes later, you've got sauce that tastes like Sunday dinner without the hidden dangers. Make a big batch. portion it into glass containers. And freeze. You'll have homemade ravioli filling without the processed pocket. Betty tried it the very next week. She bought whole wheat spaghetti and a can of no-salt tomatoes. She even added a handful of spinach at the end. 3 months later, she was down 18 pounds. Her blood sugar sat at 108. And she stayed awake through Jeopardy every night. She told me, "Doctor, hope. I feel like I got my evenings back. And I'm saving money." 2. That's the thing. These swaps aren't hard. They're just smarter. 10 minutes at the stove, 1 extra pot to wash. And you're eating food that loves you back. But the next one, it's nostalgia wrapped in poison. It's the snack you loved as a kid. The one your mom packed in your lunchbox. And for anyone over 60, it's quietly breaking your heart one bite at a time. Let's talk about canned meats. And why it's time to let go of the past. Now, let's talk about something that tugs at the heartstrings. Because it's tied to memories. Canned meats. Spam. Viande sausage. Corned beef. The little tins your mom slipped into your lunchbox. The ones you took camping. The ones you still grab when you're in a hurry. Your childhood snack feels like a friend. But after 60, it's your heart's worst enemy. Frank rolled into my office in his RV. 66 years young. Still proud he could drive cross-country to see his grandkids. He opened the glove compartment and pulled out a stack of 12 Vienna sausage cans. Emergency protein. He grinned. Keeps forever. And I'm always ready for a snack on the road. Then he told me about the chest tightness that woke him up in an Oklahoma campground. By the time the ambulance got there, he'd had a mild heart attack. The scan showed arteries clogged with plaque, and the only thing different in Frank's diet was those little cans he loved so much. I've seen this before. 1 serving of Spam packs 790 milligrams of sodium and 17 grams of saturated fat. That's more saturated fat than a fast food cheeseburger. And nearly half your daily salt in 3 small slices. Vienna sausages. 800 milligrams of sodium in a tiny can. Corned beef often tops 1,000. And then there are the nitrates preservatives that turn into nitrosamines. In your body, those compounds are directly linked to colorectal cancer. A massive review in The Lancet looked at processed meats and found an 18% higher risk of dying early for every 50 grams eaten regularly. Frank's emergency protein was slowly building a traffic jam in his arteries. I sat with Frank in that RV. The smell of coffee in the air. And drew him a picture on a napkin. His blood vessels were like highways. Nitrates and fat were the potholes. Salt was the rush hour traffic. And his heart was the engine trying to push through it all. He looked at the napkin, then at his stack of cans, and said, "Doc, I thought I was being practical. Protein should build muscle, not break hearts. And the truth is, you can still have quick, shelf-stable protein without the danger. Pick up a rotisserie chicken at the store, shred it, and portion it into zip bags for the freezer. Hard boil. A dozen eggs on Sunday they keep for a week. Or lean into plant protein. Lentils and chickpeas that we'll talk about soon. They cost pennies. Cook in 20 minutes. And freeze beautifully. Frank took the challenge. He cleared out the Vienna sausages and filled his RV fridge with shredded turkey and hard-boiled eggs. He started a pot of lentils every Sunday. Seasoned with garlic and cumin. 6 months later, he drove back to see me. Blood pressure steady at 128/78. Cholesterol down 30 points. He opened the glove compartment and showed me a container of homemade lentil salad. Still emergency protein. He laughed. But now it's keeping me alive. Letting go of the past isn't easy. But it's worth it. 1 swap. 1 Sunday prep. 1 freezer bag at a time. And you're eating food that remembers your childhood without punishing your future. And now, the #1 worst canned food. The one that combines every danger we've talked about: salt, sugar, fat, preservatives into a single, hearty-looking can. let's talk about canned chili and stew, and why it's time to take back your spoon. We've reached the top of the list. The number one canned food you should never touch after 60 and for 60 and for 60. It looks hearty, smells comforting, and promises a full meal in minutes. I'm talking about canned chili and canned stew. You open the lid, heat it up, and it feels like someone cooked for you. But inside that can is a chemical storm salt, sugar, fat, and preservatives all mixed together in one dangerous bowl. Margaret was 74, lived in a cozy condo in Arizona, and still volunteered at the library every Tuesday, 4 nights a week. She'd pull out a can of beef stew. I'm too tired to cook. She told me the first time we met, she'd warm it up, add a pinch of pepper, and eat it with a sleeve of crackers. While watching her shows, it was quick. It was filling. And it reminded her of the stews her mother made. But 2 years in, things changed. Her ankles swelled so much she had to buy new slippers. Her joints ached in the mornings. And the fatigue, she said it felt like walking through wet sand. Blood tests showed early kidney damage. And her blood pressure was 162/96. Margaret looked at me, eyes wide, and whispered, "Doctor, Hope." I thought I was being kind to myself. I see Margaret in exam rooms all the time. 1 can of chili or stew delivers 1,200 milligrams of sodium, 20 grams of fat, and 10 grams of added sugar. That's more salt than a large pizza, more fat than a milkshake, and sugar hiding in the tomato base. A major study in Lancet Public Health tracked people eating ultra-processed foods like these and found a 62% higher risk of dying early. The preservatives irritate the gut, spark inflammation. And over time, that fog rolls up to the brain, trouble remembering names, trouble staying sharp. I explained it to Margaret the way I'm explaining it to you. Your body is like a cozy home. Salt raises the blood pressure. Fat clogs the pipes. Sugar spikes the energy, then crashes it. And preservatives are like smoke seeping through the walls. After 60, our kidneys and arteries can't clear the mess as fast. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted something easy. She said, "Real stew warms the soul. Canned stew poisons it. But you don't have to give up the comfort. You just have to make it yourself. And it's easier than you think. Pull out the slow cooker, 10 minutes of prep in the morning. And dinner's ready when you walk in the door. Brown a pound of lean beef or turkey. Toss in a can of no-salt beans. Carrots. Onion. A can of no-salt diced tomatoes. And a splash of broth. Set it on low. Walk away. 8 hours later, you've got stew that tastes like love without the danger. Make a double batch. Ladle it into muffin tins. Freeze. Then, pop the portions into zip bags. 1 minute in the microwave. And you've got a meal that heals. Season it your way, cumin for warmth. Oregano for brightness. Garlic for depth. No salt needed. The flavors bloom on their own. Margaret tried it the next weekend. She called me a month later. Voice bright. "Doctor. Hope. My swelling's gone. My pressure's 138/82. And I danced with my grandson at his birthday." She laughed and added, "The slow cooker's my new best friend." That's the power of one small shift. 10 minutes on Sunday. 1 appliance. 1 freezer full of portions. You're not just eating, you're protecting your kidneys. Your joints. Your tomorrows. Enough warnings. We've cleared the danger from your pantry. Now, let's fill it with the cans that save lives. The ones that steady your blood sugar, rebuild your bones, and keep you strong enough to hold your grandbabies tight. Let's start with number 5, the humble bean that cuts heart risk by 22%. All right, let's flip the shelf now and talk about the cans that actually help you thrive. We're starting with number 5. And it's probably the most unassuming little hero in your pantry: chickpeas. garbanzo beans. If you prefer, they're small, they're cheap, and they cut your risk of heart disease by 22% when you eat them just 4 times a week. That's the humble bean that deserves a standing ovation. Thomas was 69, a retired mechanic from Michigan who still tinkered in his garage every afternoon. He came to me because his blood sugar was creeping up, and he'd put on 10 pounds he couldn't shake. He admitted his go-to lunch was canned ravioli, heated up in 2 minutes. Eaten straight from the pot. Quick and easy, he said with a shrug. I asked him to try something different. Swap the ravioli for a chickpea salad. He looked skeptical, but he promised to give it a shot. 3 months later, Thomas walked in grinning, holding a Tupperware like it was a trophy. Doc, my sugar's back to normal. I'm down 10 pounds. And I've got energy to burn. He'd been rinsing a can of chickpeas, tossing them with olive oil, lemon juice, cucumber, and a pinch of salt. 10 minutes. Tops. He even started bringing it to the senior center potlucks. And now half the guys want the recipe. Here's why chickpeas work so well. A study in the journal Nutritious followed older adults who ate beans at least 4 times a week. Their heart disease risk dropped 22%. That's better than some medications I prescribe. The magic is in the combination of fiber and plant protein. Together, they slow digestion, keep blood sugar steady, and give you energy that lasts all afternoon. No spikes, no crashes. After 60, our bodies crave that kind of gentle fuel. I want you to picture your bloodstream again. That calm river we talked about earlier. Chickpeas are like smooth stones lining the banks. They keep the current even, prevent the flood of sugar or fat, and protect the shores of your arteries. Thomas felt it in his joints, his mood, even his sleep. The best part, you don't need a fancy recipe. Open a can. Rinse the chickpeas under cold water for 30 seconds. That washes away 40% of the sodium. The canning process adds, then toss them with a drizzle of olive oil, a squeeze of lemon, some chopped cucumber or tomato. 5 minutes. And you've got a lunch that loves you back. Or take it one step further, toss the rinsed chickpeas in a blender with a little garlic, tahini if you have it, and lemon juice. Blend for 60 seconds. And you've got hummus smoother than anything in the store. Dip carrots. Spread it on whole grain toast. Or scoop it straight from the bowl. Thomas started making a double batch every Sunday. He'd portion it into small containers, freeze half, and keep the rest in the fridge. I'm eating better than I did at 40, he told me. And it takes less time than heating up a can of ravioli. His cholesterol dropped, his energy soared, and he was back under the hood of his old Mustang without needing an afternoon nap. See, this isn't about perfection. It's about progress. One rinse, one quick toss. That's all it takes to turn a pantry staple into a heart protector. But chickpeas are just the beginning. The next can on our list doesn't just steady your blood sugar, it literally rebuilds your bones while you eat. Let's talk about canned salmon with bones, and why it's one of the smartest choices you can make after 60. Let's move up to number 4 on our good guys list. And this one is special. It's the only canned food that literally rebuilds your bones while you eat it. I'm talking about canned salmon, especially the kind that still has the soft, edible bones inside. It's packed with protein, omega-3 fats, vitamin D, and calcium, in a way no other can comes close to matching. Carol was 73, a retired school teacher from Oregon who loved her morning walks along the river. One slippery February morning, she fell on an icy patch and fractured her wrist. The X-ray showed thinning bones, and her doctor warned her the next fall could be worse. Carol came to me scared. I don't want to end up in a wheelchair, she said quietly. I told her about canned salmon with bones. She wrinkled her nose. She'd never liked fish from a can, but she promised to try it twice a week. A year later, Carol walked in waving a new bone density scan. The numbers had improved. Not dramatically, but enough that her doctor called it remarkable for her age. She was making salmon patties every Tuesday and Friday, mixing the fish with oats and an egg, baking them until golden. She told me, "Doctor, Hope, I feel steadier on my feet, and I'm not afraid of ice anymore." Here's why it works. A long-term study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed seniors who ate fatty fish like salmon at least twice a week. Their risk of heart disease dropped 30%. But the real magic for bones comes from those tiny, soft bones in the can. One serving gives you 500 milligrams of calcium, half of what most women over 60 need in a day. Add the vitamin D and omega-3 seconds, and you've got a triple play: stronger bones, healthier artery, and less inflammation in the joints. I like to think of it this way. Your skeleton is like the frame of a house. After 60, the wood starts to thin. Calcium is the new lumber. Vitamin D is the crew that knows how to install it. And omega-3 seconds are the weatherproofing that keeps everything from cracking. Canned salmon delivers all three in one affordable package. You don't need to be a chef. Choose salmon packed in water, not oil. And make sure the label says with bones or skin and bones included. Drain it. Mash it with a fork. Mix in a handful of quick oats, 1 egg, maybe a little dill or lemon zest. Shape into patties and bake at 350 for 15 minutes. You'll have 4 meals ready in the time it takes to preheat the oven. Or skip the patties altogether. Flake the salmon over a green salad with tomatoes and a drizzle of olive oil. Lunch in 5 minutes. Bones, thanking you with every bite. Carol started freezing extra patties in single layers between parchment paper. She'd pull one out, microwave it for a minute, and pair it with steamed broccoli. Her wrist healed stronger than before. And she was back, leading the neighborhood walking group without fear. She told me, "I used to think fish came from a can only in emergencies. Now it's my secret weapon." That's the beauty of these cans. They're not fancy, but they're powerful. One choice at the store. One simple recipe. And you're feeding your bones, your heart, your future. But salmon isn't the only fish worth reaching for. The next can is even smaller, even cheaper. And it does something incredible for your memory. Let's talk about sardines. And why they might just be the best $1.50 you'll ever spend on your brain? Let's keep climbing our list of pantry heroes and land on number 3. It's tiny. It costs about $1.50. And it might just be the best investment you'll ever make in your memory. I'm talking about canned sardines, packed in water or olive oil. They're the overlooked superfood that can sharpen your thinking and quiet your joints at the same time. Daniel was 71, a former history teacher from Pennsylvania who prided himself on remembering every student's name. He came to me because his knees ached when he stood too long at the chalkboard, and he was starting to forget words mid-sentence. "I'll be telling a story about Lincoln," he said. And suddenly, emancipation is gone. He'd always turned up his nose at sardines, said they smelled like a bait shop. But after our talk, he bought 1 can on his way home, just to humor me. 2 months later, Daniel walked in with a grin. "Doctor, Hope, the smell grows on you." He laughed. His joint pain had eased enough that he was back leading museum tours on weekends. And the words, they were coming back. He could finish a sentence about the Civil War without pausing. He'd been eating sardines twice a week, on whole grain toast with mashed avocado one day, tossed into a salad with tomatoes and olives the next. Here's what makes sardines so powerful. A study in the journal Nutrients followed seniors who ate omega-3 rich fish like sardines regularly. Their risk of cognitive decline dropped 35%. That's huge. Better than many brain games or supplements I see advertised. Sardines are small fish, low on the food chain. So they carry almost no mercury compared to tuna or swordfish. 1 little can gives you protein, calcium from the edible bones, vitamin D, and those precious omega-3 fats that lubricate joints and feed the brain. Think of your brain like a well-tended garden. Omega-3 seconds are the rich soil. Calcium builds strong fences. And vitamin D is the sunlight that helps everything grow. After 60, that garden needs extra care. Sardines deliver it all in a package smaller than your hand. You don't need to love the smell to love the benefits. Choose sardines packed in olive oil for heart-healthy fats, or water if you're watching calories. Drain them. Give a quick rinse if you want to cut the salt. And you're ready. Mash them onto whole grain toast with a smear of avocado for breakfast. Or flake them into a bowl with cherry tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, and a splash of lemon 5 minutes. And you've got a Mediterranean salad that travels in a lunchbox. Daniel started keeping a can in his desk drawer at the museum. Emergency brain food. He told me one afternoon, I used to dread forgetting a name. Now I look forward to lunch. His knees let him climb the museum steps without wincing. And he could recite the Gettysburg Address without a single stumble. One can twice a week. That's all it took. These little fish prove that powerful medicine doesn't have to be expensive or complicated. $1.50. One quick meal. And you're feeding your mind, your joints, your future. But sardines aren't the only brain booster on the shelf. The next can is humble, inexpensive, and it slashes your stroke risk by 55%. Let's talk about no salt added canned tomatoes and why they belong in every sauce, soup, and chili you make from now on. We're almost at the top of our good cans list. And number 2 might surprise you with how ordinary it looks. No salt added canned tomatoes. They sit quietly on the bottom shelf, cost less than $1, and they slash your risk of stroke by 55%. That's the pantry staple that turns everyday meals into medicine. Helen was 70, a grandmother from Texas who loved her Sunday pasta dinners with the grandkids. She'd always reached for the jarred marinara quick. No, fus. But her blood pressure kept climbing, hovering around 148/90. She came to me worried. Doctor, Hope, I don't want to take another pill, she said. I asked her to try something simple. Swap the jar for a can of no salt, added tomatoes, and make her own sauce. She raised an eyebrow but promised to give it a try. 3 months later, Helen brought me a jar of her homemade sauce to taste. Her pressure had dropped 12 points to 136/82. She was off one medication. And she said the grandkids begged for Nona's red sauce every weekend. She'd been simmering the tomatoes with garlic, fresh basil, and a drizzle of olive oil. 10 minutes on the stove, and the kitchen smelled like Italy. Here's the science behind the magic. A study in the Journal of Nutrition tracked people with high levels of lycopene, the red pigment in tomatoes. Their stroke risk fell 55%. And here's the kicker. Canned tomatoes actually give you more absorbable lycopene than fresh ones, because the heat of canning breaks down the cell walls. Add potassium and antioxidants, and you've got a food that relaxes blood vessels, lower pressure, and protects your brain. Think of your arteries like garden hoses again. Lycopene is the lubricant that keeps them flexible. Potassium is the gentle pressure release, and the antioxidants are the shield against rust. After 60, those hoses need all the help they can get. 1 can of tomatoes delivers it without a single pill. You don't need to be a cook. Look for no salt added on the label. That's your golden ticket. Open the can. Pour it into a pot with a crushed garlic clove, a handful of basil, and a splash of olive oil. Let it bubble for 10 minutes while your pasta cooks. Want to save time? Make a double batch. Pour it into ice cube trays and freeze. Pop out a cube whenever you need sauce. 30 seconds in the microwave. And dinner's ready. Helen started freezing cubes in muffin tins for bigger portions. She'd pull one out, heat it with leftover veggies, and have soup in 5 minutes. She told me one afternoon, I used to think cooking was too much work. Now I look forward to it. Her pressure stayed steady. Her energy lifted. And she was back dancing with her grandkids after dinner. 1 can. 1 pot. 1 Sunday afternoon. That's all it took. These tomatoes prove that the best medicine often comes in the simplest package: one label, one simmer, one freezer tray. You're not just making dinner, you're protecting your brain, your blood pressure, your tomorrows. But we've saved the very best for last. The number one canned food isn't flashy, but it stabilizes blood sugar, lower pressure, and keeps you independent longer than any other. Let's talk about no salt added black beans and why they deserve the top spot in your pantry. We've reached the very top of our list. The number one canned food you should eat every single day after 60. It's not flashy. It's not expensive. But it stabilizes blood pressure, smooths digestion, and keeps you independent longer than anything else in the aisle. No salt added black beans. They're the quiet champion that belongs in every meal you make. Arthur was 75, a widower from Georgia who still mowed his own lawn and walked to the corner store every morning. He came to me because constipation had him miserable some days. He'd skip eating just to avoid the discomfort. His blood pressure was 152/94, and he felt sluggish by noon. I asked him to try one simple thing: add rinsed black beans to his plate 3 times a week. He looked doubtful, but promised to give it a go. 6 weeks later, Arthur strolled in with a bounce in his step. "Doctor, hope. The bathroom's my friend again." He laughed. His pressure had dropped 15 points to 137/84. He said, "I feel 10 years younger." He'd been cooking brown rice in his rice cooker, stirring in black beans and a spoonful of store-bought salsa. 10 minutes, and lunch was ready. He even started making a big pot of veggie chili on Sundays with the beans as the star. Here's why black beans earn the crown. The fiber and potassium work together to lower blood pressure. Fiber sweeps cholesterol out. Potassium relaxes the blood vessels. 1 cup gives you nearly half your daily potassium, and 15 grams of fiber add magnesium for muscle and nerve health. And you've got a food that keeps your heart steady, your gut moving, and your legs strong enough to climb stairs without a second thought. Picture your body like a well-tuned engine. Fiber is the oil that keeps everything running smooth. Potassium is the coolant that prevents overheating. And magnesium is the spark that keeps the pistons firing. After 60, that engine needs premium fuel. Black beans deliver it for pennies a serving. You don't need a recipe book. Open the can. Rinse the beans under cold water for 30 seconds. That cuts the sodium by half. Drain them. And you're ready. Cook a pot of brown rice. Stir in the beans. Top with fresh salsa or a sprinkle of cumin. Or make veggie, chili sauté, onion and bell pepper. Add the rinsed beans, a can of no-salt tomatoes, chili powder, and let it simmer while you set the table. Double the batch. Freeze in single portions. And you've got dinners for the week. Arthur started keeping a bowl of cooked beans in the fridge. He'd scoop some over salad, mix them into eggs, or warm them with a little garlic. His constipation vanished. His pressure stayed perfect. And he was back mowing the lawn without stopping to catch his breath. He told me one morning, "I used to dread getting older. Now I look forward to breakfast." That's the gift of black beans. 1 can, 1 rinse, 1 quick meal. You're not just filling your stomach, you're protecting your freedom, your comfort, your tomorrows. We've covered the 5 cans to leave behind and the 5 to welcome home. But before we wrap up, let's pull it all together and talk about the choice you make every time you open the pantry door. You've stayed with me all the way to the end, and I'm so grateful. Let's take one quiet moment to let everything settle. You now see the truth clearly. The enemy's hiding in your pantry: fruits drowned in syrup, soups loaded with salt, processed pasta, chemical-packed meats, and those toxic chili cans, and the allies waiting to help you thrive: chickpeas, salmon with bones, sardines, no-salt tomatoes, and black beans at the very top. Every time you reach for a can, You're making a choice. You can weaken your body with one hand, or rebuild it with the other. It's that simple. And that powerful. I'm 86 years old. I still lace up my hiking boots and take my grandkids up the trail behind my house. My knees don't complain. My heart stays steady. And I have energy left for bedtime stories. How? Because I choose the life-giving cans every single day. I rinse my beans, mash my salmon, simmer my tomatoes. Small habits, big rewards. After 60, every choice you make adds another year healthier, stronger, happier. You deserve those years. You deserve to dance at weddings, chase grandbabies, and wake up without aches. And it starts with the next trip to the store. So here's what I want you to do right now. Drop a quick note in the comments and tell me which canned food are you letting go of today? Which one are you bringing home? I read every single comment. And I answer as many as I can. Your story matters to me. If this opened your eyes, give the video a like. It helps more people find the truth. Share it with someone you love, someone who needs this message. And hit subscribe. Tap that bell. Because next week I'm coming back with 5 pantry staples that can ease joint pain in 30 days. You won't want to miss it. You've got everything you need to start today. One can. One choice. One step toward the strong, joyful years you were meant to live. I'm proud of you already. I'll see you in the comments.